Hey everybody, this is Frankie Day from Frankie Day Models. This is double feature Thursday. Hope you guys enjoyed the Trumpeter CB14 USS Ticonderoga. Right now I built this from scratch. This model I built about 50 years ago. It's been in a museum out there in Oxnard, California. And I had it for years out there. It's been out there for about 7 years out there in California, Oxnard Maritime Museum in California. And I got it back probably about 2 years ago. And it was on loan because I didn't want to sell it yet or anything like that. He wanted to get it off me. This is built to scale of 1/250. It's made from Edward Wesswessor plans. The original scale of that plan is 1/364 scale, which is about half of 1/16 scale equals 1 inch scale, leaving a model 20 inches long. So this here is probably 45 inches long, and built from the plans that I got from them. And it took me about 6 years to build this thing. I was young when I built this thing. I was probably in my 30s when I built this. And it's a beautiful model when we get done with it. I want to put some more flags on it, so I wanted. The Queen Mary is 1,100 feet. Probably one of the biggest ocean liners was in the world. She's built by Clyde and Brown out of England, and she was built during the Great Depression. And when the Depression finally hit, they slowed down the construction thing. A lot of guys are getting laid off on it. Didn't have a name at all. There was no name on this thing. All it was just a hull number. And they thought about giving it a name because it deserves a name. They don't know what the name was at the time, what to do. So they want to call it the Queen. They say, let's call it the Queen Mary. And they named her the Queen Mary, the RMS Queen Mary, Royal Mail Steamer. Her sister ship's about 25 feet bigger than her, the Queen Elizabeth. She ain't no way for a grand lady like her to die. She was bought by a Chinese fellow. It was going to make a school ship out of it called the Sea Wise. In the year of our Lord, 1972, the Sea Wise caught in fire and was burnt down to the keel in Hong Kong Harbor, and some of her remains are still there today. A lot of it's in a museum somewhere. They finally found out who the arsonist was. It was the owner's son who bought this. I guess he disapproved of his father buying the Queen Elizabeth, so he took revenge by burning it down just to punish his father. And that was a twisted way of doing stuff like that. It really was. Boy, I gotta stand back, turn this thing around. I gotta straighten out that boat right there. I don't know how it got like that. I really don't know. It's okay. I must have glued it on there. And we're going to take a little walk around in this thing. Well, I got the camera here. This thing is made from wood and botanical fittings. I got the lifeboats here. I bought the lifeboats and the Davids I bought from Blue Jacket Ship Crafters. I bought those. Everything else is made from scratch for me. It took me 9 months for me to cut out all these windows here. I had to take a jeweler's fall and just give it a couple swipes there and cut them out. Make them good and straight. That's the most elaborate part about building this thing. is making those first-class polynated wood deck windows, second-class polynated windows, even third-class over here, and I had to make sure that they were straight, which they were. I bought the stand from Blue Jacket Ship Crafters because at the time they're the only company in the world that made fittings for models outside A.J. Fisher. So here's my hand. You can see how big it is. It's big. I have the Andrew Dora too I built. It took me about 2 years to build that one. You got big screws back there. Plank and frame construction all the way. The plans give you hull stations so you can trace them out. What I did, my brother had a copying machine. I think it came from, what was that? What company made that thing? It was a big copying machine he had. I took those plans and I duplicated the set of plans to the scale here. And by using mathematics, I had it scaled to 1/250 scale. So this is pretty much incompatible with card models, which are published in 1/250 scale. Now this thing is 1/200 scale. It'll be exactly 2 feet bigger than what it is now. I planked all those decks right there too using popsicle sticks. I cut planks out because I like the color of those popsicle sticks. So I took popsicle sticks, I cut up the tops and the bottoms of it so it was rectangular. And I took a steel edge ruler and I cut strips out there on the decks right there to simulate the decking of it. Some parts are in and out of scale in this thing, but that's the technologies I had at the time for building scratch. I'm thinking about this year building the SS Calvin Coolidge, which is a 1925 steamer used during the Depression. She was known as, she was sunk off Brito Santos during the World War II when she was beached out there, and she was a transport. The only mistake I made in this hull right here, I didn't catch it until I started painting it. I was, oh Frank, you forgot to put the dip into it. I should have made it more this way. But I made it straight. So it should came out a little more like this. But I say that's okay. I can live with that. I'm not going to tear that apart and do it over again. That's for sure. Those lifeboats at Blue Jacket, the 1/16 scale lifeboats. I got a Blue Jacket. They cost me $12 for all those lifeboats. No, $24 for the fittings. And the Davids, the boat Davids, that was another $12 for that many too. So I got maybe about $40 worth of fittings on this thing from Blue Jacket. Everything else is made for me. Like I say, that was very elaborate to me cutting all these things out. I had it all masked down and drawn out, and I just followed the cuts of it with an 11 blade. It was perfect, and took a jeweler saw, making sure it's good, straight. I'll drill out the portholes too in there also. You can see the portholes that I drilled. Sometimes it puts out some light, as you can see. Because they're hollowed out. You can see the other side of the hull. I did that. I wasn't going to put a light on the thing. I said, nah. Then I had it. Then I had a museum curator, Mr. Gary Oscar Busby. He was a curator of Oxnard Maritime Museum in Ventura, California, and he wanted to know if he could borrow the ship off me. I said, well, sure, I'll be more than happy to. So it's been in the museum for a while. And I asked him I need to get it back, so I got it back about a couple of years ago. I should have made a video back then on it. That was my model building. It was really good back in those days. Nowadays I'm getting old now. I'm doing a lot of slipping on them. But this is a beautiful model. And I love the Mighty Queen Mary. We all know she resides in Long Beach, California as a tourist ship. And she's probably one of those haunted ships there is in the country today. There's been a lot of hauntings on this thing. I mean, you go down the sea deck, and they got beautiful wood furnishings in there in the kit. I mean, in the on the passengers where they stay at. When I was married to my first wife, before she passed away, Brenda, we had Megan, my daughter, living with right now. She was my fifth child I had. She was a baby. And my wife, Brenda, she was from Ohio. And she'd never been aboard the Queen Mary before, and she heard so much about it. I said, well, let's go down to Long Beach and go aboard it. I said, it's a hotel ship. You can stay aboard it and everything. Oh, we can? Yes, we can. And so we went aboard it. They got a big building across there. You go up this way, that way, go up there, and takes you up to the first class, right to the boarding passageway. They got the gangways across here where you can go inside the promenade deck. And you guys are not going to believe who we met aboard that thing. Most famous people in the world has traveled on this ship. Has anybody watched that movie with Anne Bancroft and Dustin Kaufman called Mrs. Robinson? And also a movie called The Hindenburg, where she was a passenger on the Hindenburg smoking marijuana pipe or something. She was smoking on there. Well, when we first boarded the ship, my daughter had long brown hair. And Megan was only about 9 months old at the time. And we're carried aboard the ship, and next thing you know, Anne Bancroft came up to me and said, what a beautiful child, can I hold her? I said, well, sure you can. I didn't recognize who she was until I kept looking at her very careful. Then I kind of mentioned to her, ma'am, in all due respects, are you Anne Bancroft? He goes, yes, I am. Oh, wow. I says, I figured that's who you were. I said, look, I enjoyed that movie, Mrs. Robinson. So you like that one? I said, yeah, that was a good movie. And at the time, she was, I met her aboard the Queen Mary. I was on the first class promenade deck right down over here. And she was walking this way, and we just came aboard. And they got gift shops right over there where the an A deck and superstructure where the officers' quarters at. And that's where I bought my card models at in there. They had a big display of card models. Well, I ran into her, and she said, well, I'm making a movie called The Hindenburg. That was 1980. I went aboard this thing. And I went aboard it before that. I went aboard it back in 1967 when we got it from England, when she came all the way from England, and she sold it to us. And a lot of the old lifeboats were all sold. Now those smokestacks, the funnels, them things were fragile. They just fell apart. They took them down. You know, this thing was really, virtually it was a rust bucket. And all the lifeboats were out one of the auctions out there in Long Beach, California. A lot of people bought lifeboats off of them and bought a lot of stuff. A lot of the original stuff on this thing was actually sold in auctions. And it took them about a good year and 4 months for them to renovate this whole ship to like it is today. They made new funnels for it. And what they did, they went and took the screws off. Where the hell am I at? Yeah, they took the screws. Is that the screws right there? Yeah. They took the screws off, and they got one of the display, and we go inside down below, they got a Jacques Cousteau museum in there, and it shows you that the prop underwater there too. It's really a nice effect. And everything else has just been gutted. This thing never go to sea again, guys. Never go to sea. Now inside the staterooms and everything where we resided at the time, we spent a week in there. It cost me about $400 back then. And we had Winston Churchill's restaurant he had aboard it. And we had Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He had a special room there. It had a tour, a person, the tour master, that gave you a tour of the ship and told you who the famous people stayed there. I even went in the stateroom where Lauren Hardy stayed at. Winston Churchill, he resided right over this area here, underneath funnel number 2. There's a stateroom down there. He stayed in there. He had his private room in there. He had a mannequin of him sitting in there. Most realistic, too. He had good food aboard that ship, too. At the time, I heard nothing about being haunted, but now they say there's been a lot of hauntings on this thing. I imagine a lot of people have died aboard this thing. Restless spirits, so they got no place to go, but it torment us passengers who want to board her. She's a very huge ship, guys. She's very big. When you get aboard it, the first thing that hits your mind is the RMS Titanic. Of course, we all know the Queen Mary's not more larger than the Titanic is. She's 200 and something feet bigger than the Titanic. It took a long time to build this thing, guys. It really did. And me and my wife used to fight all the time. You spend more time in that thing you do with me. I says, well, I'm with you every day. I said, I know that, but I told her to shove off and leave me alone. I want to work with my Queen Mary. And one day I was working on it to get my attention. She got very intimate with me. I was working on the boat deck. And she came in, and my room was at night